What is going on, everybody? We're back, and today I have a kind of a different video for you. So, as we prepare our Minutemen militia to take on bigger and badder enemies throughout the Commonwealth, I kind of wanted to give everybody who's watching the series like an oversight of their history, the Minutemen's history in the game. Considering we are following this faction and we're choosing them in the long run, I thought it would be kind of fitting, to make sure everybody's up to date and to catch everybody up with the history of what's been happening with the Minutemen at this far part in the game. So sit back, crack open a Nuka Cola, and prop your feet up on your little dusty side table and relax as we unveil the history of the Minutemen. Now, this faction or group first rose to prominence in the year 2180 when a group of ragtag militiamen banded together to defend Diamond City from a super mutant attack. So that was the first time that there was ever any talk of Minutemen or any action or anything to do with them in the Commonwealth in the Fallout history. So after that, after a successful defense at the Green Gem of the Commonwealth, people decided to start accepting aid from the Minutemen. And once word spread of them, they began to protect and help out more settlements and more people throughout the Commonwealth. Like their range decided, their range broadened as they gained more following. So after a while, they grew in numbers and they attempted to organize a provisional government that would be constituted by various settlements of the Commonwealth. So they wanted to establish a government that housed all the settlements. So like kind of get things back, get civilization rolling again. Now, sometime after the Broken Mass incident, which took place in the year 2229. Sorry, these Fallout dates are so, I'm dyslexic and they're so, to read. Anyway, the Broken Mask incident is when, if you guys don't know, is when the first Gen 3 synth was released above ground and it murdered 10 innocent settlers, including the parents of Rosalind Chambers, who is a character we'll get into later in the series that has ties in with the Settlement Covenant, if you know anything about that. But basically, there was a Gen 3 synth, so like one of the ones that look like human. You can't really tell them apart until you kill them. Uh, was placed above ground and it rolled up to Diamond City and it started hanging out with these people, said it was from out west. And after a couple hours of chilling and drinking at the bar, it decided to pull out a revolver and just lay waste to 10 people with Diamond City before Diamond City security took her down. Now, this provisional government that the Minutemen wanted to create, or the CPG, it was going to be a big event where every settlement sends like a representative and they sit there and discuss the terms till they agree on something, much like a sort of government type thing would be in the real world. Now, the CPG, or the Commonwealth Provisional Government, was over though before it even began. So, of course, anytime someone makes progress in the world doing something positive, Fallout or the real world, it seems like, they get one step forward and got to take 10 steps back. So Minutemen started out on a good foot. They had a good idea and they started to, roll on it and wanted to capitalize and make the Commonwealth a better place. But the Institute was not having that. So this Commonwealth Provisional Government, everybody, all the settlements, sent a representative to meet up and discuss the terms. Thanks to the Institute, though, they sent their own synth representative that ended up attacking and dispatching every other representative. This would ensure that no factions would work together for the formidable future. So, there's one other thing the Institute just couldn't really control, and they just decided that they had to. So, that is thanks Institute. Almost had it together, and you just had to do that. Now, after they failed to unite the Commonwealth under a single government, the Minutemen claimed Fort Independence, or the castle as we find it in the game, their main base of operations. That's what they decided to settle at in South Boston. I mean, it makes sense. It's a good strategic spot. It's not in a super dangerous area, but it does give them some ground footing down in the south area, which does have some immediate threats. And also, they used the giant radio tower to form radio other prominent they were able to restore the castle with not only heavy artillery, but also they added an armory, and they even added a stuck-up sentry bot named Sarge. If you haven't seen Sarge, or you don't know who Sarge is yet, Sarge is
sounds like
what you would think. At first, you're like, yay, we get a Minutemen sentry bot.
Minutemen were involved in this.
5 seconds of that, and then it's just sentry bot, red eyes, and machine guns flying
I thought they were kind of done for.
It's a real shame.
It sounds kind of crazy.
We could use another sentry bot on our side.
It was super dangerous.
I know what I'm talking about.
Sergeant von
Rustenstein. All that. Hopefully that man's back on his hiatus whenever we finish this video, so we can continue to help us scour the Commonwealth military checkpoints for salvage. But anyway, back to Minutemen's history. They continued to fortify the castle and to run their operations out of it from current time until the year around 2240. However, disaster would strike again for our heroes. You can't ever have a good thing for too long before something has to come along and squash it. When I say squash it in this case, I genuinely mean squash it. Legend has it, a giant sea creature emerged from the ocean, destroying one of the castle walls and leading a full-fledged attack against the unit garrison. I mean, if you played Fallout 4, you know exactly what the sea creature is that it's referring to, but if you haven't, that's just a terrifying thing they want us to retake this one. Not really keen on fighting sea monsters, but at this point we fought death claws, sentry bots, even a witch. So bring it on, yes, Commonwealth. Now, in the year 2240, General McGannon was leading the Minutemen, and he led them into the battle against the Spanish. He charged whenever the sea creature came and screwed the castle up. Now, it did scatter our Minutemen forces, making us a little thin, not able to defend the castle as well as we probably could have. After they sustained heavy losses, General McGann sacrificed his life by sealing himself off inside the army to protect the last of their armor, ammo, supplies, so there could be useful in the future for if the Minutemen could ever retake this spot. Which thanks God he did that, because it is quite useful in the future if you choose to side with Minutemen. As you guys will see in the future if we do take the castle. Even after losing their fort, the castle, such a blow to the Minutemen, they did continue their Minutemen jobs and defend the Commonwealth. Which, kudos to them, because I feel like most of the other factions in the game would just gave up at this point. I mean, kudos to the Railroad, too. You guys really don't got a lot going on, but you are still trying. You're not as bad as if you found the Minutemen, but you're pretty bad. Now, after they lost their castle, they did continue to defend the Commonwealth, showing up to settlements for aid and support. And after all this, Joe Becker became the acting general, considering McMahon died in the castle. Now, Joe Becker is also considered the last quote-unquote real general or leader of the Minutemen. He's a very charismatic person. All of the in-game companions like Preston or characters like Ronnie Shaw or any of the other Minutemen, they all speak very highly of Joe Becker. They all say General Becker did a good job, he was one of the last real good ones, all this. They all speak highly of him, which is very good. Now, I'm not sure exactly how, but General Becker succumbs to death in the year 2282. And with that, pretty much comes the Minutemen. As sad as it is to say, the way the Minutemen were structured, they had one general that would be in charge of everything. And then there's certain units were split up and led by Colonel, sorry. And without Joe Becker, or General Becker, leading them, charismatic leader he was, there seemed to be general squabbles break out. And then from there, it was just straight up infighting and disorganization. It got to such a bad point that members, even higher up ones such as Ronnie Shaw and James Wire, abandoned the cause altogether, quitting the Minutemen, giving up on their dreams and their sight to make the Commonwealth a better place, which really, really fractured them. This would be yet another crushing blow to not only their morale, but their troops, their forces, their reputation, everything. Now, if there was ever a time to say the Minutemen are down bad, it would be now. It can get worse, but they are definitely down bad. Throughout this entire time, you have to remember the Minutemen are the only faction that is actively defending everybody, because all the other factions in the game are pretty much selfish. The Minutemen are the only that actually defend everybody and care about everybody. Like, they don't really have like a choice or a preference. They'll help fools, they'll help settlers, they'll help synths, they'll help anybody, except for the Institute and like raiders and stuff. So it's not like they're just only looking, for synths, or they're only fighting for synths, or only fighting for humans. They're fighting for everybody, which makes them a target 25 hate. So it makes sense that they, get their troops burnt a few times here and there, and they're a little weaker than the rest of the section. I like to point that out because a lot of times everybody says about how they're so weak, blah, blah, and the railroad only comes from underground to save robots. Don't even Desmond only comes to save you. The Brotherhood of Steel only are pretty much selfish, and they don't care about settlers. They do a little bit here and there, but for the most part, they only come off their little giant airship whenever they need to. So yeah, no, the Minutemen are out there taking L left, right, center, doing something all the time. Now, with another crushing blow and a lot of people abandoning the cause, the Minutemen find themselves down bad. However, they're not out yet, and they still have a single goal, which is to make the Commonwealth a better place and to defend settlers, which is definitely admirable. In the year 2287, however, would be one of the almost finishing blows the Minutemen can take. In the year 2287, there was a settlement known as Quincy. It fell under attack from the mercenary group known as the Gunners. The guys don't know the Gunners are a long-time rival of like Spoonbag. They're supposedly mercenary men and women who are hired gunners, but they act pretty much as a terrorist group with combat. So they are attacking the city of Quincy, or settlement of Quincy. And of course the settlement doesn't have the proper defenses because, silly dealing the overseer general didn't, create their settlement, so it makes sense why they're not there. However, they did get some insight from Mama Murphy, who took a bunch of chems and had a vision that Quincy was burning. So they did send out like help or a word for the Minutemen to help defend. And thank God, because as they found some gunners snooping around one of the corners of the settlement, instead of running away, they just decided to start invading the settlement. And it is at this time that Colonel Ezra Hollis and his unit was dispatched and showed up to help defend the settlement of Quincy. They were the first and the only group of Minutemen that are going to respond, however, which is eventually the downfall of Quincy. But before that, they showed up and they killed at least a third of the gunners right then and there before they ran away. The mayor was so thrilled that the Minutemen had showed up and gotten word of their help that he put them in his own house for the duration of their siege. So he was overjoyed that they were there. Which, I mean, I know why. They obviously know it's just a guy. Great that they showed up to help. Now, as for the battle, the Minutemen easily defended Quincy for days without issues. They weren't having any problems. They were hoping for reinforcements, and each day, Colonel Hollis sent out word if either the units were too slow to respond or they just want to respond and ignore the cries for help. So basically, they were at a standstill. The Minutemen were inside defending the settlement, but the gunners were outside wearing down the defenses and their ammo and supplies slowly. So, kind of at a stalemate, there was just a waiting until a 10-year Minutemen veteran named Flynn defected and joined the Gunners. So we have a 10-year Minutemen veteran just switch sides, which is obviously going to be very, very crushing. But it's not really something they can do something about either, which also equally sucks, as there was no fighting against this aristocracy, so they're just screwed. Now, this Minutemen defectee that is joining the Gunners comes back to Quincy and offers Colonel Hall a surrender, saying that if the Minutemen stay now, they won't have any peace as long as they let the Gunners take the city. Colonel Hollis obviously refuses this surrender offer and pretty much tells Clint where to stick it and says that Colonel Hollis will stay and fight, which, as he should, was the right thing to do. Now, this makes Clint upset, and now that he's a gunner who traded sides, he has to show that he isn't going to to the Gunners. So he goes straight to the head of the Gunners at Gunner Plaza, and he says, "Hey, I know how we can take Quincy. I'll show you how to do it, but you have to let me have reign." So, having been trying to take the settlement for a while, he gets exactly what he asked for. So all he has to do is teach the Gunners how to take Quincy. That unit. This is where Clint shows the group of Gunners surrounding Quincy that if not only how to take the castle of the city, but if they do, how they will not only have the upper hand, but will easily be able to wipe out the rest of them and pick them up. So, later that night, Clint and the rest of the Gunners take out the Minutemen defenses on top of the overpass and overtake them. This gives them the high ground. And there's nothing they can do at this point. There are little to few mentions of this part of the battle throughout the game, although there is a few dialogue you can pick up here and there. For instance, Preston Garvey mentions that once they took the overpass, there was nothing they could do, but the Minutemen did give them a hell of a fight. There was just too little Minutemen and too many Gunners. But basically what you're supposed to take away from this is Colonel Hollis stays behind a group of Minutemen to fight the Gunners in the bridge when seeing the last breath. Preston Garvey is chilling, waiting for orders, and is told to take as many survivors as he can with a smaller group of Minutemen and retreat. Get out of there and just go to safety. As Preston Garvey escapes with a small group of survivors and a few Minutemen, they head toward Jamaica Plains, with Mama Murphy, Sturges, and the Walls all are along. Now, this is where things get a little deep. I mean, they're already pretty deep, but it gets a little deep. Colonel Hollis and the rest of the Minutemen force at Quincy are picked off easily by Clint's gunner on the boat. That is not what the story is. knowing that Preston Garvey and any survivors escaped, they send a group of gunners after them to join the flames, which picks off a few Minutemen here and there. Now, heading from this point forward, Clint keeps Colonel Hollis alive as kind of a toy to prove that he is allegiant to the gunner force. And he tries to make Colonel Hollis see his side of things and why he chose the gunners. But no matter what he does, Hollis will not accept that worldview. Clint then takes his pipe pistol, puts it to the skull of Colonel Hollis, and blows away our last colonel of the Minutemen. As he does this, a few Minutemen get picked off the Jamaica Plains, and the group of gunners that were sent to chase them and dispatch them return saying that they got away, that they did pick a few off. This angers some of the gunners, specifically the ex-raider Tessa. Clint only defected so he could take rank, and thinks that he's also going to raid on the gunners as well. She thinks they should continue to chase Preston Garvey as long as he survives, to where Clint says, it'd be great if we could have killed them all, like I think you knew earlier. We had the sun, and we had the to a certain extent, I see where you're coming from. Although it's ironic because if the sole survivor of Vault 111 decides to help the Minutemen, which I, for the most part, feel like you guys, then it ultimately will be. So he showed his own fate, but I digress. From then on, the Minutemen would go to Lexington and find the ghouls in the city. Here we have already found and then from there, being picked off slowly, here and there some, there was a small group of 8 that made their way to Concord, that then engaged in a fight with the group known as the Raiders. From there, more Minutemen have been found and fall into the Raider ranks. This, my friend, is exactly the point in the game where the sole survivor comes across them. This is the exact moment in time where you come across that silly guy on the balcony with a laser musket yelling about he can help some settlers in a museum of freedom. This, my friends, is where you get to make the choice ultimately to pick up that laser musket, pick up those fusion cells, and disintegrate those raiders, or to simply walk away like it's none of your business. Now, if you're like me, you made the choice to pick up the laser musket and bring vengeance to those raiders, and also bring peace to the Commonwealth, then congratulations, you're a Minuteman. If not, you're either a scumbag or you decided to choose another faction and you really just don't like being with the game, which is fine, what have you, it's a video game, you can decide. But this, my friends, is the sad and tragic history of the Minutemen throughout Fallout 4. And this is why, whenever you find Preston Garvey, the Minutemen are the weakest faction and they need your help. I would not say that they are the weakest throughout the game because I think that they are the best and the strongest by them. But when you find them, they are in a weakened state and they are definitely down bad. Any of the other factions, considering they don't have an army, don't even have a base of operations, heck, they don't even have a church to hide. What? They simply have Preston Garvey, a laser musket, and a common goal to make Commonwealth a decent place to live and start a life. This makes me resonate with them, and this is why it is so easy for me to choose them and play with them, regardless of being lane questions. Always get with us. Because if you think about it, the Minutemen literally are just there to defend everybody and to help everyone as long as they are not threatened. And that's something that you can really get behind. And I know it's fun to be the bad guy, but it's also fun to be good. I'm having a lot of fun doing this playthrough as the bad guy. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun watching this play and enjoying living. Now, I know that was kind of a storyish, longish, drawn out episode, and I'm just kind of sitting here building up my Sanctuary Hills, but I promised there was a method to my madness. Now, as you know, we are doing a Minutemen general run through of main I want this to be the best playthrough ever, the most Minutemen filling playthrough anybody has ever experienced. And to get the desired feeling, I decided to, check out a few things here and there. And as I was looking out into the Creation Club the other day, I had noticed that there was a Gunners vs. Minutemen Creation Club pack that not only adds, I believe, a side quest, but different power armor paint jobs, which we can use for the Minutemen, and also, like, I believe it was armor, too, I believe. But the big thing was the power armor. And I just so happened to download that.
Lost track of how
So,
many blisters.
will be not only going after the Institute and claiming justice for the Commonwealth, but we are going to build our numbers, we're going to get our soldiers up, we're going to build our settlements up, and then eventually we are going to plan to retake Quincy from the Gunners. And we're going to have to pay a visit to our old Minutemen Clint and show him that it did not pay for him to betray the Minutemen and serve some justice to him. I'm really looking forward to that, because not only is it going to be very entertaining and feel very good for, how bad the Gunners have been treating the Minutemen, but also it's really going to do something for my boy Preston Garvey, I think. I think a little bit of redemption is something he needs in his life. Max out his appearance, you talk to him, it's pretty deep with you on how he's, failure and kind of everything was his fault up here at a certain point. And really, you can't chalk up the failure of the Minutemen to one thing. Yeah, they might not have had the best, like, infrastructure between the leadership, kind of depending on one charismatic general all the time in like all these issues. But at the same time, most of their issues also were just things that you can't control, like synths being dispatched above ground to just needlessly murder representatives to stop a provisional government. A giant sea creature coming out of the ocean because it's on its time of the month, just waxing a wall on a castle for no reason. And also one of your 10-year veterans just being like, yeah, I'd rather wear green combat armor and walk around with slightly stupid people that are evil than become a Minuteman. You can't really help. You can't really do anything to prepare against someone turning on you, treason. So I'd like to say that it's not really one individual's problem or issue the Minutemen felt for a combined bunch of issues, some of which are just unfortunate events that they just happen to be here for long days, long times. And it's really unfortunate to see such a great faction be laid waste like this over such unfortunate events. They're literally trying to do the right thing over and over and over again. But I think that's why we also takes issue with them, because it puts like such a heavy presence on you working with the Minutemen. Like any settlement, you pretty much have to be with the Minutemen. You want to like have access to the artillery strikes and the castle and all those things, to the Minutemen. It's a little bit. And that's why I think the Minutemen also, you can side with some of the other factions and still hold the ideals of the Minutemen, and they won't be, hostile against you. But that is the history of the Minutemen, and I know this is a little bit of a more boring video, but it's going to end on a bit of a cliffhanger, because in the next episode is going to be nothing but action-packed battles. As you'll see, the Minutemen come under attack. And as you were getting told the history, the same very gunners that caused all those problems for us are still being a thorn in our sides. As we race over here to check on a unit of Minutemen dispatched by Lieutenant Larry himself to capture this supply drop within this church. We notice that we've lost communication with these Minutemen, and we're not sure if they've made contact or not. As closer approach, we see that they are under attack from a rival group of raiders, and they're held up here defending the supply drop. Now, as the general, we leap in the battle here and easily dispatch of these raider numbskulls without any casualties. But it is lucky that we did, because the Minutemen had lost their communication and they are very outnumbered here, considering that there's also another raider base right to the right of this location that is very easily triggered by gunfire and such. So it is good that we showed up when we did. There's a lot going on. The Minutemen are in the thick of it, and you can see here we the Minutemen are a casualty. We did have a casualty. See, these raiders are nothing but bad news. This is why we need a provisional government. The Minutemen can't save the world. We can try, but it's a big job. He took out our robot as well. Well, we took out his entire infrastructure, so we try to do this with as little casualties as possible, but it's impossible for us to have zero casualties. And you just can't trust anyone. Like, even this raider I pacify here. You think, oh, we pacified him, he's good. But watch how quickly he switches back up and goes for his weapon as soon as I put the musket down. This is why you just can't take prisoners, Preston. Just can't take prisoners. He thinks he's in the clear as soon as I put the musket down, and boom, he goes for his weapon. Look at that. It's like an instinct. They're animals. Raiders are nothing but animals. He had to get disintegrated too. That is why the Minutemen are the best hope for the Commonwealth. We have every faction's best being set in mind. Look at that hops. I love seeing the little glow of the laser muskets throughout the church. Rip, rip our boy, Minuteman, Minuteman Dan. That's what we'll call him. Moment of silence for Minuteman Dan. Let's come back over there. Killed Minuteman Dan. Don't worry, Minuteman Dan. You didn't die in vain. We will avenge you. I promise. That, my friends, though, is the history of the Minutemen up until the point of the sole survivor making contact in the game. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, let me know in the comment section. And like I said, we're going to be ending this episode on a bit of a cliffhanger here. As you can see, we are going to first find our Minutemen outfits and supplies that we were on this quest for as I go secure the top of the church first. Can't be too careful, you know what I mean? This is Fallout. Could have been anything up there. Deathclaw, an old lady with a minigun, a gulper, who knows? Sadly, there's no way to save this soldier. However, they didn't die in vain. They do give us helpful information that'll hopefully help the Minutemen with their battle against the Gunners and the rest of the Commonwealth. And we get a legendary laser musket, which is going to be very helpful for us. It's very nice to have that. I think that's our first legendary laser musket, actually. This says that there's been a secret group of Minutemen who have been talking in private. It reads, ever since Quincy, a handful of us have been talking in secret, gathering supplies, and getting ready for a war. The plan is to storm into the city and raise our flag up high for all to see. One last star-spangled fuck you to the gunners and the crew. Captain Mercer says the time to strike is now. I told him I was on my way, but if he saw an opening, not to wait up. When I get there, I've got a special surprise cooked up for those assholes. A T-51 power armor set that I myself stole from a gunner camp. I've got it stashed away in a garage east of Hyde Park. The problem isn't a gunner, it's got a gunner's paint job, so to avoid friendly fire, I ask our resident painter Alex to give it our colors. While she's lathering it up, I'm gonna stop by the church and pick up a personal weapons cache. Maybe on the way I'll ask God if he'd be so kind not to fuck us this time. I agree. I'm asking God that he not screw the Minutemen over this time as well. Now let's go see if this set of power armor that Nunzi's here has stashed is still in the garage of close by to this place. Hopefully we will be backed up by our Minutemen. Hopefully they'll have our back here. Seems like they've got this location on lockdown, which is actually pretty impressive considering there's a massive raider camp to the right, and they did just kind of lose someone. But yeah, let's go see. Poor guy. Let's go see if we can find the set of power armor if it hasn't been fandangled. As a general overseer, Mr. Silly Dilly over here decides to employ his stealth as to not wake the sleepy feral ghouls or the restless raiders to the left. Now, as I travel closer to inspection, I realize the garage was very close to the Minutemen outpost that we just found. As I got stuck on as a on a trunk, it is pretty much smack dab or right across. I started to get yelled at by them raiders, and I was like, "Whoa, better be stealthier, Codsworth, Codsworth, Codsworth! You rusty bucket of bolts, get over here!" Gonna have me getting all sorts of diseases from this water, boy. All right, that seems to be. Yeah, they're not interested in us anymore. Look at the little tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. As we get a little closer, we notice that this is in fact the garage mentioned in the note above. Nunzi's note. So hopefully the power armor, T-51 power armor, is still in there and is still intact. As we get closer, we can notice that there's not a lot of life going on here, and there is some blood, which is a little nerve-wracking. And then, oh, there we see it. What seems to be two dead bodies, one via Minutemen, one via Gunner. We can only assume the worst had happened here. Now, it is unfortunate, but the note from Trumbell states that there's only one artist for the whole revolution, and he is sick and tired of being bossed around and told that he needs to paint at a faster rate. But Nunzies also says that she's going to threaten tell about the chems and the antler holes he poked in the hat, so work he shall. But it looks like he didn't work too hard. She didn't she didn't really get to finish the power armor, it looks like this gunner might have gotten to her beforehand, sadly. Now on this gunner we can find a gunner scout's note, and it reads as the following. I've tracked the stolen armor to a warehouse east of Hyde Park. The area is poorly guarded with only one of the musket-wielding rubes stationed inside. While I can't be certain from this distance, seems to be making modifications on the armor's exterior. I should eliminate her before the simpleton damages our equipment any further. So it would seem as if the gunner was watching as our fellow artist prepped to paint the power armor and decided to make a move before she could damage it, per se. Now it looks like they killed each other in this struggle. Neither one is found alive. Not. What is that? Sanctuary Hills is under attack. Could this be the Gunners? Could this be? Could this be the Gunners' siege upon Sanctuary now that they know that the Minutemen have, reclaimed it? Could our long-standing rivalry spew again? I better beef up this power armor with some Minutemen paint and go find out what's going on in Sanctuary Hills and get to the bottom of things. Like I said, I have a bad feeling that the Gunners are involved, considering this entire thing seems to be a setup. Now our Minutemen were spread thin throughout the Commonwealth as we tracked more settlements and try to defend those. It looks like we might have accidentally spread ourselves a little too thin. Hopefully not too thin, and hopefully not thin enough to have casualties at Sanctuary Hills. But who knows? We have no idea the number of gunners or the amount of resources that they have at their disposal. The only thing we can do now is finish painting this power armor, plop in it, and get ourselves the Sanctuary Hills, hopefully in time to defend all of our settlers and our current fellow Minutemen. It's pretty it's pretty coincidental that the Gunners have been striking the Minutemen at almost all their important settlements and slowly just wiping us across the map. And the second they get wind that we're building back up, we have an attack at one of our. uh, In fact, it is our home base of operations at the time being for the Minutemen. I find it very coincidental, and if the Gunners aren't involved, I'll be very surprised. But it would seem as if they're mounting a full-fledged offensive against the Minutemen to wipe us off of the Commonwealth map altogether. And as the general Cannot allow that to happen. I have to be better than the previous General Becker, Colonel Hollis. I have to be better for the sake of the Minutemen and for the sake of the Commonwealth. All right, Codsworth, before we go engage in battle, is there anything else here that we could use that'd be well, that's okay. That's both people have heads. I'm not going to question it. That's something for another episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the battlefields of Sanctuary Hills in the next one as we go defend our settlement from God knows what unholy abolishment. Hoorah, Minutemen!